US presidency. It wasn't even close. Trump won more than 51% of the national vote. He got more than 300 seats in the electoral college. He's returning with a bigger mandate. I know the other side is quite disappointed today because yes, Trump does bring a lot of uncertainty, but that's not how history books will see it. History will record this as America's greatest political comeback. Defeated in 2020, leading a failed attempt to overturn elections, being shunned by his own advisors, convicted of fraud and assault, facing a party rebellion, and yet returning triumphantly to the White House. I guess America does love a comeback story. Frankly, no one was expecting these numbers, so there's a lot to unpack today. How did election night unfold? How did Trump clinch the electoral college? What will Trump 2.0 look like, and what does it mean for India and the world? Also, how is the market reacting? All this and more lined up for you today. First up, the headlines. Protests erupt in Israel after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fires his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Netanyahu's office says there was a breakdown in trust between the two leaders. They frequently clashed over Israel's retaliatory military offensive against Hamas. Foreign Minister Israel Katz will be the new Defense Minister. Egypt joins Turkey's call to the United Nations for an arms embargo on Israel, citing concerns over their use. This comes as Israel battles Hamas in the Gaza Strip and the Hezbollah in Lebanon. Turkey has submitted a letter to the United Nations. It is signed by more than 50 countries, calling for a halt in arms deliveries to Israel. In India, chaos in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly as it passes a resolution to restore Article 370, which granted special status to the erstwhile state. The opposition BJP stormed the well of the House to protest against this move. The resolution was finally passed without any debate. Nvidia surpasses Apple again to become the world's most valuable company. Shares in the chip-making giant rose by almost 3%, taking its market capitalization to $3.4 trillion. In June, Nvidia had briefly overtaken Apple for the first time. Currently, it is worth more than Amazon and Meta combined. And Sarah McBride becomes the first transgender person in the U.S. Congress. The Delaware state senator wins a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Transgender rights were a hot button issue in this U.S. election.
Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States.
So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us.
America is Trump country again. He has pulled off the improbable, a political heist, if you will. Most polls had predicted a tight race. A lot of them gave an edge to Kamala Harris. But Donald Trump had the last laugh. He will be the 47th President of the United States of America. Let's look at the numbers first. The US has 538 electoral college votes. You need 270 to become the president. And how many did Trump win? Well, more than 300. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris was stuck at 224. And it's not just about the number of votes, it's also about how Trump got them. Most polls said that the race would come down to 7 swing states. States that switch hands from election to election. They swing from one side to the other. And guess what? Trump won all 7 of them, all 7 swing states. So he retained the traditional Republican states and he captured the undecided ones. He also won the popular vote, which is basically the national vote share. Trump got more than 51%. Kamala Harris got around 47%. Now, this is unprecedented for Donald Trump. Even when he won in 2016, he did not win the popular vote. Hillary Clinton did. It's something that Democrats used to mock Trump about. But not this time. This time, Trump has won the popular vote and the electoral college. And in doing so, he has scripted history. Only one US president has ever lost re-election and returned to win another term. That's Grover Cleveland. He was the 22nd and the 24th President of the United States, but that was way back in the late 1800s. In recent times, the trend has been different. You lose an election, you disappear. You don't stay around to contest again. But Trump said, not so fast. He bided his time for more than 3 years, built up a strong voting coalition, ran a long and draining campaign, and finally won. Hate him or like him, credit for that. Trump was watching the results from his residence in Florida. As the picture became clear, he headed to a nearby convention center. The entire Trump team was there. His wife, his sons, his daughters-in-law, Elon Musk, a few golfers and podcasters. Everyone who pushed Trump over the line, they were present. In classic Trump style, he did not wait for mainstream media to call the race. He declared it himself. But unlike last time, this was fair. Trump spoke about sealing borders and fixing the economy. In a rare move, he also called for unity. Listen to this.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country.
Trump's running mate also spoke. That's J.D. Vance, the vice president-elect. He hailed Trump's political comeback.
Well, Mr. President, I appreciate you allowing me to join you on this incredible journey. I thank you for the trust that you placed in me. And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
Trump also praised Elon Musk. He spent a lot of time talking about his recent rocket mission. It was quite a visual description. He also said that Musk was the star of this election cycle. All in all, it was a typical Trump speech. A lot of hyperbole, a lot of warnings, and a lot of adjectives. On the other side, the scenes were completely different. Harris was at a college in Washington, D.C. Hundreds of her supporters had gathered there. At first, the mood was upbeat. They had a DJ playing some music. But as the night dragged on, the real picture became clear. Kamala Harris decided to cancel her voting day speech, and soon the crowd disappeared. In fact, the Democrats are totally silent. We haven't heard from any of their top leadership. And you can see why. The Democrats did not just lose the White House, they're on track to losing the US Congress as well. As you know, the Congress has two chambers. In the Senate, 34 seats were up for grabs. The Republicans have flipped 2, meaning their candidates unseated Democratic senators. As a result, they have a majority in the Senate. They're first since 2021. The other chamber is the House of Representatives. And this one is not clear yet. There are 435 seats in the House, so the majority mark is 218. The Democrats are at 182 and the Republicans are at 204. The remaining seats are yet to be declared. But you see the trend here. Republicans could walk away with the White House, the Senate, and the House. Basically a clean sweep, which brings us to an important question. What will Trump 2.0 look like? Well, first you have the formalities. The Electoral College will have to meet and vote for Trump. Their vote will have to be certified, that too by Kamala Harris in the Senate. And finally, he will take the oath of office. It's a months-long process. The inauguration will only happen on January 20th next year, 2025. After that, he is in charge. Now, with Trump, you must consider two things. One is his temperament. The second is his policies. The temperament was bad last time. He constantly clashed with American media. He refused to work with members in Congress, and his executive decisions were frequently challenged in courts. Will we see a repeat of that? Or will he display the maturity of a one-time president? His campaign speeches don't inspire confidence, but let's see how it unfolds. Secondly, policies. Trump's big promise was drill, baby, drill, meaning he wants to expand oil drilling in the US. That's his solution to inflation, to bring down fuel prices. His other major promise is tariffs, a 10% tariff on all goods imported into the US, a 60% tariff if it's from China. Experts say that this could trigger inflation in the country. But again, let's see how it goes. His third major promise is mass deportation of illegal immigrants. Trump plans to use a 1798 law to achieve this. But chances are there will be legal challenges to this, not to mention logistical chaos. Beyond these, Donald Trump has promised to roll back democratic decisions and laws. For example, the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, gun restrictions introduced by Joe Biden, and climate funding and electric vehicle subsidies. All of this could disappear. Chances are we will also see a new team. Last time, Trump relied heavily on his daughter, Ivanka Trump, and her husband, Jared Kushner. This time, they were missing from the campaign trail. We have to wait to see if they return. But even if they don't, expect some new faces this time, like Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A lot also depends on the House of Representatives. If Trump has a Republican Congress, he could reshape the U.S. government. Whether it's appointing judges or tweaking the bureaucracy or revamping public health policy, he plans to appoint Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to the Health Department, a known vaccine skeptic. So much like 2016, Trump is coming with a host of untested policies, radical but controversial ones. This time, though, he has two advantages. One, he knows his way around Washington. And two, he could have a Republican Congress. We are possibly looking at a historic presidential term. Good or bad, only time will tell. So the results are in. It's now time for a post-mortem. The polls promised us a tight contest, but this is anything but. So what did result day tell us about the public sentiment? Let's dive into the voting data. The biggest issue this time was the economy. No two ways about it. For 39% of the voters, it was the number one concern. Whether it's sluggish jobs or recession fears or the cost of living crisis, that's the top issue. At number two was immigration, the mess that's been created at the southern border. 20% voters called it their most important issue. So that's 59% for economy and border, two issues that are considered to be Trump's strength. And what about abortion? It was number three at 11%. So the big picture is clear. 59% voters gave priority to Trump's biggest campaign points. Only 11% gave priority to Harris's biggest promise. Which brings us to voting blocks. We heard a lot of theories heading into election day that women would flock to Harris, that Latinos would abandon Trump. Did any of that actually happen? The simple answer is no. Around 54% women voted for Kamala Harris, 44% voted for Trump. So yes, Harris got more women votes, but Trump's share is actually 2% up from 2020. So he's added more women voters to his coalition. Now, Harris's pitch was simple. Only she can protect abortion rights in America, but clearly that did not resonate. Maybe women are not single-issue voters. They care about things beyond abortion too. Secondly, black and Latino voters. Again, a so-called weakness for Trump. Trump won 45% of Hispanic voters this time. Harris won 53%. So yes, she leads, but Trump's share has increased. And listen to this, it has increased by 13% compared to 2020. So once again, he's added to his coalition. Among black voters, he stands at 12%, which is unchanged from the last election. Among black men, he's up 1% from the last time. He's up. So to recap, more women and Latinos voted for Trump this time. But guess who did not? Believe it or not, white voters. Trump is down 3% among white voters compared to last year. Now remember, these are all exit polls. The official results do not calculate race or gender. But it does tell a story. The narrative was that Trump alienated voters of color. A lot of focus was on his rally in New York. One of his supporters called Puerto Rico floating garbage. But none of that has hurt his support base. Clearly, this was a vote cutting through race and gender, a vote on the state of the economy, the state of the border, basically a vote against the current status quo in America. And credit to Trump, because his team read the sentiment well. The Democrats talked about joy, about democracy being in danger, about Trump's denial of the 2020 results, but they were completely off. Those were not the key issues this time. The key issues were economy and the border. Trump kept hammering down on these issues even on election eve, and you can see the result. Plus, some of the Democratic talking points simply did not strike a chord. For example, transgender rights. Perhaps the push was well-intentioned, but this wasn't the election to do it. Exit polls found 50% of the voters said that trans rights had gone too far. Remember those Trump rants about men competing in women's sports? Well, they seem to have resonated. Same with the fake news about migrants eating dogs and cats. Harris mocked Trump for saying all of that. But the electorate was deeply concerned about the border. So the biggest takeaway from this election is this. The Democrats completely misread it, whether it was the anger against the economy, the anger against Joe Biden, or the perception about Kamala Harris. She wasn't seen as distinct from Biden. She was very much seen as part of the problem. In 2016, the Democrats underestimated Donald Trump and they paid the price for it. This time, they did not repeat that mistake, but they did underestimate the voter. In any election, anywhere in the world, that's a losing strategy. So one night, two very different fates. Donald Trump is jubilant, he's claimed victory, his supporters are celebrating. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, is nowhere to be seen. She hasn't conceded defeat yet. The mood is glum in the Democrat camp. It's morning right now here in Washington, D.C., as you can see. But we were up all night tracking the updates. So what did it look like for both the candidates? How did the election night unfold in the United States? Our next report tells you.
They came with the hope of witnessing history. A victory for Kamala Harris, making her the first woman to become the US president. On election night, the manicured lawns of Howard University were packed, with people ready to celebrate. They were nervous, yet hopeful.
It's like it's home here, so it's like coming home to watch one of your own do something big. You know, I can't even tell you what it means to be here.
Howard is Kamala Harris's alma mater, a university that shaped her life. She graduated in 1986 and has since returned here multiple times. Yet no visit was as important as this one. She chose Howard as her election night headquarters.
We are at Howard University, the alma mater of Kamala Harris. She graduated from here in 1986 and she's going to watch the election results from here. So you can see the excitement in the build-up to the result declaration.
Harris's night started early. She had dinner with her family, something she calls a tradition. After that, she headed to Howard University to camp with her team and watch the results. On a giant screen, results from some key states started flashing. There was applause as Harris racked up some easy blue states. But soon, laughter turned into horror. As key states were declared, her supporters fell silent. Harris was supposed to address the crowd, but she did not. Her campaign advisor made this announcement instead.
We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation.
Well, the fight is over. Harris is yet to concede. But on the other side, Donald Trump was quick to claim victory. He started his day in Florida, at West Palm Beach. Here he cast his vote along with his wife, Melania Trump. From there, it was a quick trip to Mar-a-Lago, Trump's luxury resort club in Palm Beach. He had his followers and supporters there. Elon Musk spent the night with him, along with many others. The Trump election headquarters was a short distance away, at this convention center. His supporters gathered here for a watch party. The election was first called by Fox News, and once that happened, they erupted in celebration.
Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States.
Other major networks were yet to call it, but Trump decided on an early victory lap. He headed from Mar-a-Lago to the Trump election headquarters along with his family, and this is where he claimed victory.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal.
The speech was a long one, including a lot of thank yous, promises, and hopes for the next 4 years.
I want to also thank my beautiful wife, Melania, First Lady, who has the #1 best-selling book in the country. Can you believe that? Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together.
The same election night, yet two very different endings.
World leaders rushed to congratulate Donald Trump. Among them was Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Listen to his message. As you build on the successes of your previous term, I look forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthen India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. Together, let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability and prosperity. Prime Minister Modi also added a personal touch. He called Donald Trump his friend. But what does this result mean for India? How will it affect India-US ties? Broadly speaking, nothing will change. This is a long-term strategic partnership. Both Democrats and Republicans agree on that. Having said that, a leadership change is always important, and Prime Minister Modi has seen a number of them. When he first became Prime Minister, Barack Obama was president. In 2017, Donald Trump took over. In 2021, Joe Biden took over, and now Trump is back. So Modi has worked with 3 different US presidents. He had great equations with all of them, especially with Trump. Together, they attended the Howdy Modi event in Texas. They took part later in a grand rally at the Ahmedabad Stadium. So chemistry is not a problem. Trump is a known entity in New Delhi, which brings us to policy. Donald Trump has promised a tariff on all imports, which includes Indian imports. They're worth about $75 billion. They include medicines and engineering goods. Yes, Trump's tariffs will hurt that trade, but hopefully it won't escalate into a conflict. Same with H-1B work visas. Trump is expected to curb work permits for immigrants. He says immigrants are eating up American jobs. A third issue could be supply chains. India and the US are setting up semiconductor plants in India. Again, it's a sore point for Trump. He says American firms should produce in America. If not, they should face more taxes. It will take a few months to get some clarity on these policies, and even if there are issues, the two sides know each other well. They should be able to settle differences. Which brings us to the politics then. Trump's presidency was very important for West Asia. During that time, Arab states normalized ties with Israel, which opened the gate for India. We joined the I2U2 grouping. It includes India, Israel, the UAE and the US. New Delhi and Washington are also building a shipping corridor to Europe, one that starts from India and passes via West Asia. So Trump's normalization deals are good news for India. The bad news is Iran. India is planning to invest millions of dollars in the Chabahar port in Iran. But Trump is a bona fide Iran hawk. He could take offense to India's project, perhaps even consider sanctions. We saw that in 2018. Until then, India used to import cheap oil from Iran, but Trump imposed biting sanctions. Soon afterwards, India stopped buying. Now we come to the neighborhood. Trump is one of the few US presidents who publicly called out Pakistan. He accused them of betrayal in the war on terror. Even cut off military aid to them. Joe Biden, though, resumed that aid. On Bangladesh, too, Trump has a different position. He recently said that the country was in chaos. He accused mobs of attacking Hindus and other minorities. Biden, though, cozied up to Muhammad Yunus. The question is, was this campaign rhetoric from Trump or will it continue in office? India will be hoping it's the latter, that it will translate into policy. And finally, we have China and Russia. Trump had a stable relationship with Vladimir Putin. He even pushed for reinstating Russia in the G7, which is good news for India again. A stable US-Russia relationship means no more tightrope walks for India. And with China, Trump has been aggressive. He will be aggressive. He was president during the Galwan clashes in 2020. In public, he offered to mediate, but his officials criticized China's actions. So lots of variables to consider, but unlike Russia or China or the West, New Delhi won't be thinking too much about this change of guard, and that's not a reflection on Trump. It's a reflection of India's geopolitical position. So India has welcomed the result, but not everyone shares this sentiment. The US election was closely watched in capitals across the world. Once the results became clear, the messages started trickling in. One of the first messages came from Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. His country is at war. But it did not delay Netanyahu from wishing Trump. He called it, and I'm quoting, history's greatest comeback. Of course, Netanyahu has a lot to be happy about. He shares a great friendship with Donald Trump. In his first stint in office, Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, normalizing ties between Israel and the Arab states. He recognized Israeli sovereignty over Golan Heights. He moved the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So Netanyahu would be happy with the result. Trump backed him in his first term, and he expects the same this time. But there's another leader at war who does not have that assurance. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He did congratulate Trump, though, praising his peace-to-strength approach. But Ukraine would be nervous this morning. As a candidate, Donald Trump promised to push Zelensky to end this war. He wants Ukraine to cut a deal with Russia, one that could lead to loss of territory. There's also the question of aid. Chances are Trump won't be as benevolent as Biden. And without money, Zelensky will find this war hard to sustain. He needs the United States. He has had years of differences with Trump, so today's congratulatory message was an attempt to do some damage control. But will it work? The world is fighting two wars. Trump wants to stop them. He mentioned it explicitly in his victory speech.
Want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars.
So Trump wants no wars. But can he influence his friend Vladimir Putin? Trump shares a good relationship with the Russian president. He's called Putin a genius. He's called him, and I'm quoting, the smartest one. That's what Trump said for Putin. In fact, Trump cannot stop praising the Russian president. But will that translate into better ties? Russia is a hostile state for America, and it's unlikely that this hostility will disappear overnight or with Trump in office. And Russia knows that too. Their sovereign fund head has floated the idea of a reset. Kremlin too seems open to it. Yet Putin has no plans to congratulate Trump, it seems.
As for congratulations, I am not aware of the president's plans to congratulate Trump on his election. Still, let's not forget that we are talking about an unfriendly country that is directly and indirectly involved in the war against our state.
So a lot of mixed signals, but China is only getting one signal, and that is more tariffs. Trump's win means more trouble for Beijing. Last time Trump waged a trade war against China, this time will be no better. Trump's already promised a second round of tariffs, this time on Chinese imports. So Beijing has very little to be happy about, and it showed in their statement. There were no congratulations for Trump, but China said it hoped for, and I'm quoting, peaceful coexistence. Iran, on the other hand, has no such expectations. Trump 1.0 was bad for Tehran. Trump 2.0 could be worse. And the country says it is prepared for it.
The election of the U.S. president doesn't have anything specific to do with us. Major policies of America and the Islamic Republic are fixed, and they won't heavily change by people replacing others. We have already made necessary preparations in advance.
Which brings us to Europe. They woke up to the possibility of a second Trump presidency. Most of them were quick to congratulate. French President Macron wished Trump. So did Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. The NATO chief too chimed in. But that doesn't mean they're not worried. Trump's first term wasn't so great for them. He had patchy relations with leaders. He expressed disregard for the European Union. He threatened to quit NATO and even the United Nations. So Europe is rethinking its options. But there's one person who's happy amid all of this, and that is Hungary's Viktor Orban. He's hailed Trump's victory, calling it, and I'm quoting, a much-needed win for the world.
I see a shining victory, perhaps the biggest comeback of the history of Western politics. It's been a huge fight. He was threatened with prison. His wealth was confiscated. They wanted to kill him. The whole media world turned against him in America, and he still won.
So the coming days will change a lot. While campaigning, Donald Trump promised a lot, like ending the Ukraine war in 24 hours or pledging new tariffs on China. Will he act on them? When he takes office, will he act on all of these promises, or was this just campaign rhetoric? We'll find out in the coming months. Vantage continues after a short break.
thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And to every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, we are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path.
Now let's talk about the fallen soldier in this battle, Kamala Harris, who practically bled votes in this election. Out of the 538 electoral college votes, you need 270 to become the US president. According to projections and leads, Harris got 226. She couldn't win in a single swing state, not one. She failed to outperform President Joe Biden's 2020 record in a single state. She lost ground with female, Latino, and Asian voters. So where did it all go wrong for her? Was it her baggage from the Biden administration? Was it the economy, immigration, all of the above, or something else altogether? Our next report tells you why Harris lost.
You won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow.
In the end, joy turned to dread. Vice President Kamala Harris never took the stage at her election watch party as echoes of 2016 filled the premises, much like when Hillary Clinton lost the presidential race. And her campaign chairman, not Hillary, came out to address her election night supporters.
Amazing job, and she is not done yet.
Harris's historic attempt to become the first female president of the United States has been quashed, and how? Former President Donald Trump is returning with a bigger mandate. In sharp contrast, Harris failed to outperform President Joe Biden's 2020 record in a single state. Trump is projected to sweep all the 7 swing states. This was not the only setback for Harris. She lost ground with female voters. 54% women voted for Harris. That's 3% less than what Biden had won in 2020. She also lost out on Latino and Asian votes, with a loss of 6% in Latino votes compared to Biden's win in 2020. So, where did it all go wrong for Kamala Harris? The first reason is Harris herself. She is not battle-tested. She had been running for president for about 16 weeks against a man who'd basically been running for 9 years. Second, Harris overemphasized on abortion rights while blaming Trump.
Today, our daughters know fewer rights than their grandmothers. This is a healthcare crisis, and we all know who was to blame. Donald Trump.
He openly says that he is, quote, proud that he overturned Roe v. Wade. Proud. Proud.
Sure, this was great for Harris. It was her party's strength. It was supposed to bring in last-minute voter surge. But what Harris forgot is that abortion may be a key issue, but it's not a unifying one in America, as sad as that is. It was the Democrats in 1992 who said, "It's the economy, stupid." That was their slogan. And Harris should have remembered it. She has been vice president for 4 years now. So all that has gone wrong with the cost of living crisis, with inflation, with anemic growth and employment, is also seen as her fault, and it weakened her campaign. Another crucial reason was immigration and protecting the border. 20% voters consider it their most important issue. Illegal migration in the United States was lower when Trump was president. It surged during Biden's term. And again, Harris was also held accountable for it. Which brings us to the fourth reason, her Biden baggage. Yes, the Biden administration dragged her down, but Harris made it significantly worse. During an interview, she was asked if she would do anything differently than Biden, and she said, "There's not a thing that comes to mind, not a thing." And the Trump campaign milked it. They played her answer on loop. So, despite the fawning celebrity patronage, favorable media coverage, and record fundraising, Harris's campaign had a lot of holes. That being said, not everything is Harris's fault, like her own race and gender. It's hard to prove that Harris can lose because of sexism, but gender plays a major role in how Americans vote. Trump has been victorious in 2 out of 3 bids for president. He lost to a fellow white man, but defeated both his women challengers. For Harris, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong, paving the way for Trump's so-called greatest comeback.
Now let's look at a different type of world reaction to Trump's victory and Harris's defeat. The reaction in the markets. Yesterday we told you about the calm before the storm. Well, today it seems that the Trump hurricane has made landfall, affecting every single market. We'll focus on four different markets. Commodities, chiefly gold and oil, the currency market, crypto, and finally global stocks. That's what we'll talk about today. We'll start with the commodities. They're down. Trump's victory means bad days ahead for this market. Let's look at gold first. Gold prices were down to an almost 3-week low today. And this is after they just hit a record high last Thursday. Gold prices had been steady in the run-up to this election because the yellow metal is considered a safe investment. But now that we know that Trump is coming back, the uncertainty has passed, so people don't need gold to protect them anymore. That's why gold is down. Next, let's look at another commodity, and that's oil. Prices started falling after it became increasingly clear that Donald Trump would win. The global oil benchmark, Brent crude, was down by more than 1%. I'll explain why in a moment. But before that, let's look at the currency market, because it is related. Yesterday, we told you how Trump's victory would cause the US dollar to surge because of his plans to impose tariffs on imported goods. We showed you how this action would cause the US dollar to increase in value. But the currency markets are not even waiting for Trump to take office. The rise of the dollar has already begun. The US dollar has surged by about 1.5%. against a basket of different currencies. The dollar is up against the Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, the euro, the pound, even the Indian rupee. The rupee hit an all-time low against the dollar earlier today. It fell because the dollar made gains against everything. So what does this mean for trade? Most trade is conducted in dollars, even if the US is not involved. So when the dollar rises, it means that imports automatically become more expensive, and this affects demand and causes prices to fall. So things return to the way they were. That's exactly what happened to oil prices today. They fell because the dollar surged. Other commodities could experience the same thing, the same trend, which is why a Trump victory is good for the dollar, but bad for the commodity market and bad for other currencies as well. Well, regular currencies anyway. Cryptocurrencies are a whole different matter. Crypto is celebrating Trump's victory. Bitcoin, the world's best-known cryptocurrency, rose to a record high today. It breached the $75,000 mark. Other cryptocurrencies rallied as well. Trump had promised to back the crypto industry. He was the pro-crypto candidate. So obviously the crypto market thinks that the future is bright for them, and they aren't the only ones. Stock market indices across the world rose today. Japan's Nikkei 225, India's Sensex and Nifty, Europe's Stock 600. We'll have to wait to see how the US markets react today, but they had started making gains yesterday, when a Trump victory seemed increasingly likely. Now, the result has also caused stocks to rally almost everywhere, like I said, but there was one notable exception, and that was the Hang Seng Index, based in Hong Kong. The Hang Seng fell by over 2% today, bucking trends seen around the globe, and the reason is simple. China is firmly in Trump's crosshairs. He has promised harsh measures when it comes to Beijing. He said he could raise tariffs on Chinese goods to as high as 60%, 60%. That would be impossible to escape unscathed. So the Chinese markets reacted today as it became clear that Trump would win. Will Beijing intervene to protect its markets tomorrow? Or will we continue to see them bleed? The next few days should prove interesting as markets all over the world adjust to the reality of Trump's return. So this presidential election went off without too much of a hitch, but the run-up to this moment was tense. Things could have gone sideways. Security was ramped up all over the United States. But despite this, there were attempts to sow chaos. There were multiple bomb scares at polling booths in crucial swing states. The US claims that there's a Russia angle to the bomb threats. It's an allegation that Moscow has vehemently denied. Here's our report.
We planned heavily for the incident of a bomb threat being called in. And it's a good thing we did, because that's the only thing that happened today was 32 bomb threats at different polling locations. 32.
There were 4 bomb threats in Navajo County. Federal and state authorities have indicated that these are not credible. There is no credibility to these bomb threats.
We've also been made aware that in the course of the last hour, multiple bomb threats have been called into polling locations and municipal buildings across Pennsylvania.
Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. There were bomb scares in all these states. Bomb threats targeting polling booths. None of the threats proved to be credible, so the goal was obvious. It was to cause chaos. Why these states in particular? All of them had one thing in common. They were all swing states, the states that would decide the outcome of this election. Most of the threats targeted one location in particular, Fulton County in the state of Georgia. 32 of its 177 polling stations faced bomb threats. Most were easily dismissed, but 5 of them had to be closed temporarily, and voters were evacuated. Security sweeps had to be conducted there before they could be reopened. Because of the delays, voting hours were extended. So while it was inconvenient, it didn't necessarily cause lasting damage. But who was behind the hoax? Who would take pleasure in making the lives of American voters more difficult? America's Federal Bureau of Investigation pointed to Russia. They released this statement and said that the threats came from Russian email domains. It's a story that a lot of Americans bought.
I talked a little bit earlier about that Russian hoax and that bomb scare. And I just want to make sure everyone understands this, that Georgia's not going to be intimidated. The Russia has just decided they picked on the wrong Georgia. They need to pick on the other one in the Black Sea, because we're not going to be intimidated. But we're just excited about where we are right now.
That was a member of the Republican Party, Trump's party. Even he believed that Russia was trying to derail this election. Democrats believed it as well, of course, and they thought that they were the targets.
I think that there are some people who are trying to discourage people in South Fulton from voting. But we are the blackest city in the United States. We are the descendants we are the sons and daughters of people who faced lynch mobs, water cannons, and canines to exercise the right to vote. And so we aren't going to let a bomb threat turn us around.
Russia has categorically denied any involvement. The Russian embassy in Washington called the accusations malicious slander. And think about it. Emails originating from Russian email domains? The plot wasn't very sophisticated. Making threats from Russian email domains seems like an amateur move, probably not something the KGB or other Russian agencies would do. Despite this, both the American parties believed the Russian interference theory. Either way, it doesn't seem to have had any real effect on the final results. If the race were closer, then maybe. But as things stand, the bomb threats don't seem to have mattered.
And it's been a big day not just for the US but also for the news industry. Voters rely on media outlets to track the scores, so it's an all hands on deck situation. While their facts and data may be the same across the board, their coverage has vast differences. In the US, Fox News channel has dominated cable election coverage. They were also the first to declare Trump's victory. In France, a newspaper called the same win, and I'm quoting, every reason to fear the future. Meanwhile, British papers spoke of, and I'm quoting again, bewilderment at the polls in Tinderbox America. In India, headlines mentioned hope. In Ukraine, nervousness, while the Chinese called it a money-burning event. Safe to say, the US elections have dominated news coverage the world over. Our next report tells you how.
The United States. The former president's comeback will be complete with a win.
Hours before the polls opened for the US presidential election, Fox declared it a record quarter for revenue.
That Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
And the reason is obvious. Fox News has dominated cable US election coverage, and today the Trump-leaning network became the first to declare the former president's victory. They called him the biggest political phoenix from the ashes. Soon enough, other media outlets followed the world over, while they warned the viewers that these were projections as of now. But the tension and excitement was palpable as networks quickly moved to the post-mortem stage. New York Times, which has faced backlash over its coverage of Trump, called the US a splintered nation in suspense. Now NYT has not been alone in favoring Harris. Studies show that 84% of Harris's coverage throughout the election cycle has been positive, while Trump's has been 89% negative. In the same way, the paper's headline was not alone in its anxiety-laden emotions. And not just in the US, British Daily Mail declared that Tinderbox America is on a knife's edge. Channel 4 in the UK reported a sense of bewilderment. The channel's broadcast was its first overnight coverage of a US presidential election since Bill Clinton defeated George H.W. Bush in 1992. Meanwhile, Daily Mirror reminded voters to pray for victory and brace for chaos. And with Trump's face plastered over the cover, Daily Star called it Bigly Trouble. And in France, Trump's political career was called the collapse of whole swathes of the US political system, with every reason to fear what Trump might do next. The palette of emotions shifted in India, where headlines awaited the results with bated breath, hoping that pragmatic policies will be maintained, whoever the victor. In neighbouring China, the Chinese state media has been conspicuously silent in the run-up to the election, but later called the elections a money-burning event. Chinese mouthpiece Global Times pulled a China and opened a headline with all the negativity they could muster, saying, Amid fears for violence, US Election Day voting begins. In Israel, an editorial piece screamed, "Trump is bad for Jews and bad for Israel," just as Kyiv nervously watched the election results unfold. All eyes the world over were on the US elections, with a concoction of nervousness, surprise, and wordy headlines.
And that's a wrap on our show today. We already have a winner, but the action is far from over. We'll be here in Washington, D.C. all week, bringing you the latest updates. So make sure you tune into First Post. We'll see you tomorrow.
Officially for Donald J. Trump.
The 47th President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Wow. This will forever be remembered as the day the American people regained control of their country.
I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. And in addition to having won the battleground state,
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Donald Trump claims victory over Kamala Harris in a stunning White House comeback. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump thanked his supporters and described it as a magnificent victory for the American people. He also referred to the assassination attempt on him and said that God spared my life for a reason. Trump has won 276 electoral college votes, going above the halfway mark. The opponent, incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris, is at 223. She has yet to concede so far, even after Donald Trump has declared victory, but she will address the nation in a short while. But Trump has hailed the golden era of the United States in his victory speech. But big breaking news coming in, where Prime Minister Modi, this is top sources telling CNN News 18, Prime Minister Modi has called President Trump after his victory in the US elections. Prime Minister Modi congratulated President Trump on the decisive victory and performance of the Republican Party in the congressional elections. Both leaders affirmed to work together for world peace. President Trump says the whole world loves Prime Minister Modi and added that India is a magnificent country and Prime Minister Modi is a magnificent man. President Trump also told Prime Minister Modi that he considers him and India a true friend and says that Prime Minister Modi is one of the first world leaders to speak to him after his victory. That is the big pitch coming in when it comes to India-US ties, ladies and gentlemen. Prime Minister Modi dialing Donald Trump when it comes to his spectacular victory in the US elections. Let's listen in first to what Trump said when he gave that victory speech.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally. We want to have borders. We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. We want great education. We want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together, we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future. Many people have